Okay, so I have been to the butcher. That is a big piece of meat. It's the shoulder. It's like the whole fucking thing. This is going to be. There's a bone in there. That's the shoulder blade is in there, so that is to come out. And then I'm just putting this meat in the fridge. And the shoulder blade and bone, along with this gore fest, which is like obviously some gnarly rib action there. This is all gonna go. Oh, that's good. It's giving me. That's going to be a lot of flavor in there. That's from some dead thing. Little baby bones there. So, all this, all the bones out of this are going to go into the oven with some onions and, what are they called? Carrots, bay leaf, things like that. They go in the oven for about an hour. And then they'll go into a huge stock pot, so that's going to be the next step. Okay, so this is my first, oops, sorry about that. This is my first time taking a bone out of a piece of meat this size. I have, usually when I buy this chuck, there's no bone in it, but this guy just was feeling a little bit crazy, so he gave me the whole shoulder. I don't have a cutting board big enough, but I've cleaned this stove surface quite thoroughly, so hopefully that's going to be okay. Bloody hell. So I think we've got just, oh there, it goes all the way down there. Okay, so this is kind of big, but let's see how we get on. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I don't really care, because I'm kind of excited to see this bone once it's out. Bloody hell, that is really in there. Oddly enough, it being bone. There's going to be probably a lot of meat left on this bone because it's an odd shape. And I don't know what I'm doing. But, you know what, actually I think a smaller knife is going to be the one for this. Paradoxically enough. Yeah. I can see the bone ends like around there, so I'm probably pretty safe in doing it this way. Yeah, that's the actual bone there. Let's see. Okay, that's the end of it. So I don't want to like hack into the part that's not bone, because that I can feel is not bone already. That's like the end of it, so let's see. I don't want to hack into myself either. Okay. It is becoming visible. And then there's a little bit that goes down that way. So this is very tough sinew. That's obviously the shoulder itself, so it's going to have mega sinews in it. So I guess this is maybe I should put a warning on this video. It's not suitable for vegetarians because this is a lot of dead cow action here. So what I'm going to do, I can see that this bone ends right at the end of the meaty bit, so I'm probably just going to take this whole section off and that'll be one big piece of meat. So I might do it this way. Christ. There we go. I can feel the bone against the knife in a good way, meaning I'm not cutting randomly into this meat. Because I want to preserve as much of the as a single piece of meat as possible without you know, so that I can cut it to nice size pieces when I'm going to make the beef stew. I don't know if I've mentioned what all this is in aid of. I'm making boeuf bourguignon for my friend's party. Okay, here we go. And there's the bone. So I think what I'll do is maybe do the same thing at this end and just make that'll be like one big massive piece of meat. If I can find the end of the bone here. So normally, like I say, I just buy the meat. It doesn't have any bone in it. So on the first day of this whole process, all I would be doing is putting the bones in the oven and everything to make the stock. But this is a little more in-depth than what I'm used to, but that's okay. Okay. Well, this is just going to be a very fleshy shoulder bone, I think. I don't mind that, because it's all going to be creating flavor. Okay, this is not going badly. Okay. Oops. There we are. Ah. How do you like that? That's not too much wastage, and like I say, you know, when that goes in the stock with all the rest of this stuff, that's going to be a lot of flavor. And now I have I'm curious how much this weighs. I mean, obviously I've got to take this fat off. There's a lot of like fat sheets or whatever they call them, tendons and stuff like that to get out. But this is a lot of meat. But because I bought it in just a single piece, with the bone still in there and all this stuff that the butcher would normally remove before he sells it to you, it was only 7 pounds per kilogram. So that's a lot less than it would be if the butcher had done just that. It would be $9.50 a kilogram if he had just taken that bone out and nothing else. Anyway, whew, this is exciting. Now this is going to go in the fridge because I'm not doing anything else with this today. And I'm going to add some carrots, onions, celery to this tray, and maybe peppercorns and bay leaf or something. And that's going to go in the oven and brown for an hour. Oh God, this is a big piece of meat. I'm going to freeze some of this because this is more than I need. I only need 8 kilograms. I'll have to find some way of weighing this. So these onions have just been cut in half. They're not peeled or anything like that. And they will, this is insane. They'll kind of roast first and they'll get nice and brown flavor, and then they will taste more tasty because they do brown food. So it was tastiest food. Ow! Shit. Yeah. There's no room in this pan. This is the biggest pan I have, and it's like way too small for this. Okay, there. There's other stuff that's gonna go in there when it goes into the water, but this is what I'm putting in the oven. There'll be like celery and other stuff, but I'm not gonna put the celery in the oven because it doesn't really do anything to it, I think. So that's what it's looking like after about 45 minutes in the oven. Lots of interesting colors and shapes and sizes and bits and pieces. So watch this space. I'm going to put it back in. I want those onions to be more roasted than that. They're just sort of singed. Well, this is definitely a first for me. The bones do not quite fit in the pot. As you can see, this one here is like sticking out above the top, and they're all crammed in there. I actually had to break some of the joints and stuff like that to fit it all in there. It's completely crammed in. There's no room for anything. Probably won't even get very much water in there, to be honest. But that's the pot that I have, so that's the way it's going to be. So I decided to do this in 2 pots because there was just too many bones in the one pot. So I've got like 2 whole big pots here on the go, which I think is gonna work out okay. I was just concerned that there'd be too much liquid, but I'll be able to reduce it. In case you're wondering what all this stuff is, that's the fat from the tray that I roasted the bones in, and I kind of forgot to put it in, so when I scraped it off a second ago, it was all these little individual fat pieces, which, you know, we'll probably have to remove anyway, but I just put it all in there for goodness sake. So now when this is going to come to a boil, and then I'll be simmering it for 5 hours, and all the juicy goodness from those dead, they're kind of crazy, the juicy goodness from those dead animal bits, and from, my lighting is really bad, and from the celery and the garlic and the onions and carrots and stuff, that's all going to be very tasty. I don't like the lighting in here. I'm going to have to do something about that. This is the way it should look. Gnarly and disgusting. So they've been going for about 2 hours, and they've got another 3 hours to go. I'm glad I put it into 2 pots, because I think this way I'm going to get some spare stock that I can use. I've already got too much meat, so I can just freeze some of that, and also freeze some of the stock, so I could come back and make another smaller Boeuf Bourguignon at some point down the future. So it's kind of gonna get a little more value out of my purchase today. So this is what it looks like after 5 hours. It's absolutely disgusting. It's been sitting there bubbling away for 5 hours after having been baked in an oven for an hour and a half. This stuff is basically fucked. But once we remove all these bones from the situation, put them aside, strain out all the little bits of gristle and knobbly little shitty bits of things that have been boiled to death, then what remains is absolute amber. And that's what I've been working towards for the past, well, actually all day. And it's going to be amazing. And it's going to make the Boeuf Bourguignon, you know, have this kind of delicious velvety texture. There's a lot of anatomy in this stuff. There's a lot of sort of bits of like tendon and ligament and stuff that's just like these things. They get all gelatinous after time, and when you remove them and let it cool and stuff, well, this is actually going to be like a jello when I'm finished. When it cools, it's going to look like a jello. You know, you'll be able to cut it with a knife because it's got so much protein in it. Those are proteins that make it like that. Anything that's like a glue in cooking is you know, protein basically. So yeah, I could make glue with it, I suppose. It's like a glue factory. Anyway, I'm happy with the result. And tomorrow you're going to see what I do with it next. So for now, thank you for watching.